Hello, and a warm welcome
Right.
to the Reform Party podcast. This is the third in a series of interviews with candidates for the board of Reform UK. And today I'm very pleased to introduce Mr. Gawain Towler. Hello, Gawain.
Hi there, Ken.
Uh,
Glad to be here.
I say I've got to introduce you, but really I think you introduce yourself, don't you? But perhaps you'd like to just reprise for those who don't know of you what your path has been to here and what your credentials then are for this job.
I suppose you could say it's been a long and winding road. I first got involved in what I call the tribe, which is basically parties and people who have followed Nigel Farage over the last 25 years. In 2004, where Nigel asked me to be his press officer in the European Parliament. Prior to that, I'd been a journalist. I'd worked for the Tories on international development. I'd been the private eye guy in Brussels. And Farage came to me and basically said, "You take the mick. You're a Eurosceptic, you're a journalist. Will you work for me?" And it took me about a quarter of a pint to say yes. And ever since then, I have been working with or around both first UKIP, then the referendum, then the Brexit Party, and then Reform. I was let go about a year ago, just after a conference last year. And since then, I've started to work in the public affairs space, advising companies on you do realize you have to speak to Reform. Basically, you do realize that you're going to have to engage with us. And of course, what it means, we know as a party that we lack certain expertise, certain things of that sort, lacuna in policy. And there are many people out there who are looking at us and going, actually, what they're trying to do is the right thing, but they are policy light, they're expertise light, and so bringing in people with business experience, with those ideas, and then engaging them with the party, so we can produce a greater depth of policy, greater depth of things, as long as it ties in with our core beliefs and values, then I'm happy to talk to anybody and try and encourage the party to engage as well as business to engage. And there's a glorious idea that recently I've had senior people in the corporate world come up to me and say, "Hey, Gwen, I really want to know what Reform's doing, but I don't want people to know I'm interested." And I'm expecting at party conference there's going to be corporates wandering around looking like photographs of old SAS men with masking tape across their eyes. But the point is that the world is now taking us seriously, and we must take ourselves seriously. It's been one of the delights of working with Farage and everybody else in the party is that whilst we take the politics very, very seriously, we don't always take ourselves too seriously. And that humour free zone that is the Labour Party and a large chunk of Westminster and Whitehall, the Tory party and the Lib Dems, it's sort of, it doesn't feel that they're like us as a nation. They are so hidebound by fear of making mistakes, by fear of being perceived to have the wrong opinion on the wrong day, means that they have been unable to engage with the general public in a way that Reform just are. And I love that. I love working with people who are not frightened of themselves.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, the way the polls are at the moment, I wouldn't have thought that selling reform to corporates is a difficult job. I mean, you would have thought they would
Well,
should be all over us, really.
I'm not sure about that. I mean, the historically, corporations have been very, very wary of anything to do with Farage, anything to do with the perception. Um, Entrepreneurs, very different ball game. Entrepreneurs have always found it easy to engage with us
Hmm.
because they own their own business. But in many of the larger corporate bodies, the shareholders, the pension funds, these are the drivers of wokery.
Hmm.
And so, therefore, whilst there may be good people on the board who want to talk to us and understand what we're about and engage with us, they are frightened of doing so because some of the big corporate stakeholders are a complete anathema. If Serco is a significant shareholder in your company, what do you think you're going to do? If BlackRock is in the background, you're not going to like Reform because we're going to challenge their profit margin.
Yeah,
And
but
good,
but
so we
that
should.
that must all be changing, surely, because I mean it's
It
changed in
is
the general
changing.
population. When I first
Oh,
started, going around, people in the street were coming up to you and saying, "Oh, you're this and that."
you're this,
That
you're
doesn't
that, you're
happen
the other, yeah.
anymore. That doesn't happen anymore.
Well, I think that if you think of the sort of psephological breakdown of the population, the A, B, C, D, E, 1 and 2. C, D, E, 1 and 2, there ain't no such thing as a shy reformer.
No.
People in those chunks of society are proud of it, absolutely proud, and they will tell you so. And they're not, there's no shame. However, in the middle class, in the professional classes, whilst there is growing support, there is still caution. There is still concern that their friends might think them dodgy. I stay in southwest London. I'm house sitting for a friend in Fulham, and the pub round the corner, great little pub. I sit outside and work, have coffee from around 10 in the morning sometimes, or drinking in the evening. And the amount of people in that part of the world, which is middle class centre, it's rock solid Tory. The amount of people, even last night, somebody said, "You're Gawain Towler, aren't you? I'm on your side." But that was it, because he didn't want his friends to hear him. He walked past me and told me that. The amount, I must have had 10, 15 people, members, supporters, but they want to say they support, but they don't want their friends to know they do. And so, but this is an increasingly large number in a sector of the population that we've never really been popular in. And so things are changing. But as I say, there still are shy reformers in the ABC sectors of the population, not CDE.
Or maybe I don't mix with enough of these people to get a handle on that. But certainly, if you come up to the north of England, you'll find that there's nobody shy about being a reformer.
Well, this is what I mean. Basically, in what we call what has become known as the Red Wall, but it's the same in South Wales. It's the same elsewhere. But if you go into the commercial world at a managerial or above level, there is still the sort of fear that they might be seen to be dodgy. That is changing fast. The fact that business, even though it doesn't want people to know it's talking to us, does want to talk to us, means that they know which way their mood is going. They know where the country is going, and they know they have to engage. It might take a little bit longer for them to do so publicly. The other parties, they find it easy to get corporate donations. If a company donates to us, their shareholder meeting will be an absolute bun fight. Whereas if an entrepreneur donates to us, not a problem at all, because they run their own show. And like it or not, politics runs on money. It just does. Now, whilst the sheer incompetence of the last two governments has driven a lot of votes in our direction, one has to remember that that is great, but we need to be able to particularly speak to those people who've given up on everything. That's a significant part of our possible vote. We are on 30, 32, 33% in the polls right now. But a lot of that are people who've given up voting. And we need to ensure that they do. That requires a machine that works, that is cohesive, that the head office and the branches and the membership are talking together, the regions are operating closely, that they're cooperating, they're providing mutual aid. That's where the money comes in. It's not in the gut support. We've got that. But to turn that support into actual votes in 29, or when the general election takes place, that takes money. It just does. You need to have people phoning people up. You need to have you actually, you said you were going to vote for us, will you vote for us? So on and so forth. And it's one of the reasons that I go around quite a lot, go around the country giving public meetings for branches. This is fundraising to help branches raise that money. This is what can I do to help them. Up until now, well, the only thing I can really do to help them is turn up, and so they can have an event and sell 70, 80 tickets and build some funds in the
when you come to the Wirral in September, we'll sell more tickets than that, Gawain, I promise you. But we'll see. I mean, is that how you see this role on the board, as going around the branches, picking up what's been going on the ground and feeding it back?
I'll be doing that anyhow. I'll be doing that anyhow because I enjoy doing it, one, and it's something I can do. However, of course, that becomes slightly different from what had been up until now, in that, in all honesty, I've been on broadcast mode when I've been turning up events. Turn up, say my spiel, have a couple of pints, chat to people afterwards, essentially. But if I do get on the board, then the my dial will be set to receive just as much as set to broadcast,
Mm.
because I now have a specific role, which will be, and I believe the role of the 3 elected members on the board is very much a listening role,
Mm.
being, as I think I put it, the gristle between the bones.
That's right. It's the conduit, isn't it, between the
Yes.
what's going on at branch level and what's going on at leadership level. And that, I mean, in my view, there have been some missteps over the last year
Oh, gosh,
by the
without a doubt.
leadership. And had they had more, had they had a better conduit and understood more what was going on the ground, I don't think these missteps would have taken place.
I think there is some truth in that. I think that what I've noticed since a certain personnel change at head office is head office itself has become talking to people who work there, has become a much happier ship. People aren't constantly terrified of losing their job. And the idea that initiative was a dangerous thing. The head office has become a much happier place to work
Good,
in
good.
the last month or so. What hasn't happened yet is the atmosphere that pre-existed spread across the whole party, from the membership right to the top. That good mood that seems to be boiling now at head office has yet to get through the regional and branch structure.
Mm-hmm.
That is something that I think will happen anyhow, but with the right people on the board, that will happen quicker.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think there are, because I'm not a branch officer, I have not seen the branch rules, but I understand the branch rules there are some question marks over what it was designed to do. And I think the board is the sort of place that you can revisit that, and having 3 elected members gives a voice to the
It's a
branches
voice,
to say,
but
hold on,
just
this
to be
isn't working. Can we do
clear,
it better?
with the composition of the board, you have 8 members of the board. You've the leader, and you have the party chairman, and then they have 3 appointees of the
Yeah,
leadership. So that's effectively 5,
correct.
and then you have 3 members who are elected by the branches. So whilst you will be going to the board and it will give you a certain amount of soft power, you won't actually have any hard power to force a policy through or do what you want, and
No,
and
and
that's right.
obviously,
That's right, of course. But that will be the situation.
yes, and there is a point, and I understand why, at least initially, Farage was wary of having a board. He had to put up with the UKIP NEC for years,
It had the scars.
and it was. The thing is, somebody actually wrote quite a good piece about this in the last couple of days, and I thought it was quite insightful. When you have a party of 25,000 members, or 30,000 members, which was UKIP back in the day, and they elected a NEC, the sort of people who were engaged in UKIP back in the day, and I include myself as one, were very hyper active, hyper interested, hyper on it when it comes to politics and issues and things of this sort. We now have a membership of 230,000. We are a mass membership organisation. So should we say, concentration, the boiled down politics that a party of 25,000 has, is now much more moderate, much more reasonable. And so the sort of people who are going to get elected are not fanatics. And that's so you had people who were fanatically committed to the cause. And their point of view is great, but it doesn't get out of our own bubble. Today we've got people, because it's so much bigger. We're not fanatics. So we now represent a far greater part of the population, and so therefore the sort of ideas that will be coming in to the board won't be completely unelectable, and that was part of the problem before. And I think that's a function of success. A function of the way the party has grown, and it's a great thing. So the reasons why Farage was wary, with the growth of the party, have become significantly diminished. If I think, when you've got David Bull, who's going to be on the board, definitely. You've got Nigel, who's on the board. David Bull's on the board. When I think of the 3 people who are going to be appointed, my feeling is, and I don't know who they're going to be, but I can make my own guesses.
Well, 2 are to be elected officials, aren't they? So that's
have to have been elected. They don't have to be elected now. They can be. but they have to have been elected to public
Yeah.
office. And if the people who I think are probably going to get those slots are the ones who do, then you've got people who are experienced, have done politics, do understand the problems, do understand the issues. They're not going to be blind loyalists. David Bull is a great bloke. He's not a blind Farage loyalist.
Mm.
He is not. He hasn't popped fully formed from Nigel's thigh. He is his own man, and he is also somebody who listens and really cares about the membership.
Mm.
And I think this is one of the pleasures of working for the tribe over the years. Much as there were these problems, compared to other political parties, our leadership actually likes our members.
Mm.
They actually do. The people in head office actually enjoy their company of members. When you go out to a branch event in Southend or in Carmarthenshire or in Sunderland or Worcestershire, to name four that I've been to in the last couple of months, we actually enjoy each other's company.
Mm.
And you can't say that about the Tories or Labour or the Lib Dems. They don't actually like each other. And that, I think, will have a significant impact. So, yes, the people appointed by Farage to the board will be people that are party loyalists or Farage loyalists, but they're not blind. I don't think they're going to be ciphers. I
Mm.
don't think they're just going to sit there and Nigel thinks this, so we can't think. I just don't think that's the sort of people who's
But
going to get on the board. But
we don't want strife on the board, do we? We don't want to be
no,
challenging Nigel at every turn. We
that,
want
that
to
would
be
be silly.
supporting him
That would
and
be
be
silly.
collaborative with him.
I mean, in all honesty, whilst I'm a cause loyalist, yes, I am loyal to Nigel. Of course, I am, and have shown it. I hope over the last 20 years. But
Well,
the
can I just say that I think you're an absolute shoo-in for this job, and the reason is that you have got
many a split fixed cup and lip.
so much loyalty, and you showed so much loyalty to the party at the time a year or so ago back when you lost your job, and the attitude you've taken since. So many people have got so much affection for you because of the way you've behaved by comparison with others who had fallouts or whatever, and you have done yourself huge credit in that last
Well,
year.
I think it's just a question of what I suppose I've never regarded myself as that important, and so it's not about me, and it really isn't. I would say that wouldn't like because I'm pitching for votes, but actually one of the reasons I've not really been campaigning hard in this election. I've done my media stuff, and I've done a video and I've written a couple of pieces about what I think is important,
Mm.
but I've not really been campaigning hard. And when I basically said, "Come in, invite me to public meetings," and when everybody's people have, I said, "Make it after the conference."
Mm.
I don't want you to invite me to public meetings to campaign. I want you to invite me to public meetings so I can go out there and help the
Yeah,
branches.
yeah.
But one of the reasons is I hate internal campaigns.
Mm.
I hate them. I love campaigning against the enemy. I love campaigning against the other lot. But in internal campaigns, people sometimes get very, very enthused
Mm.
in their campaign. And after the 23rd of August, we're all going to have to work together.
Yeah.
And part of the problems with internal campaigns is people can sometimes lose their head a bit and say things and do things that they may regret later and make working together later harder. So my feeling is, look, I've looked down the list of candidates. I know most of them, not all, but I know most of them. As far as I can see, they all bring skills
Mm.
and aspects that would be very, very useful. Well, there's nobody there on that list. So I think, well, that's a duffer.
Mm.
There's
No,
nobody who is a
you could
duffer.
make an NEC out of the whole list. You know, they are good,
Precisely, you can
solid people. There's no mavericks
precisely.
as yeah.
And there's a lot of experience there, really good experience amongst them. So I don't like campaigning because basically people's noses get out of joint. It becomes hard to work with them afterwards. So I just leave it a bit.
Well, let's hope
Um,
let's hope it doesn't come to that, and I don't think it will because I don't think there's
no,
going to
I,
be
I
leaders
don't
in
think
this
it will, but
left.
I've seen it too often over all my years in politics that I just hate internal campaigning, because as I say, these are people that I work with and I work closely with in many cases, and if through ambition and through a lack of thought, sometimes a little bit of thoughtlessness, people's noses can be put out of joint and people get hurt, and that's the last thing I want to happen.
Yeah.
So I think we all whilst every now and then we might catch a crab, we are all in the same boat rowing in the same direction.
Mm.
And that is something that I think the membership know. I think that there is, again, unlike other parties, 230,000 members. I suspect the turnout's going to be really high
Mm.
for this
Oh,
board.
I've had people email me
Because our
say,
people are
yeah,
absolutely
the
engaged.
videos are
They
great.
want to
I
learn.
want to know who these candidates are in depth
Yeah,
because I want to find out
it's
about them
great.
because I'm going to cast
Absolutely
my
great.
vote. Yeah.
I'm talking again, companies that want to go to conference. I've been telling them, look, don't expect. Could you organise a lunch for the council cabinet members on subject X? No. What do you know? Well, we'll pay you. No, 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 no. It doesn't work like that. They're there because they want to be there and they want to meet their own people. They're celebrating their victory this year. The last thing they want to do on one of the 2 days in our conference is sit in a stuffy dining room being lectured to by some businessman. Go and talk to people, but don't expect that everybody's going to be wandering around the trade fair and looking for a tote bag and some free pens. Because for most of the people who go to that conference, our members who go to that conference, they're there and they're going to be sitting in the hall listening to speeches. If you go to other party conferences, they only go to the hall for the leader's speech. I suspect in our case, the hall will be full the entire time
Mm. Yeah.
because people actually, the vast majority have joined in the last year. They're absolutely enthused. They think that we provide a possible savior for our country, and they want to listen. They want to learn, and they want to hear. And I don't know if you noticed in the David Bull's, sorry about the light, the David Bull's email that came out yesterday,
Mm.
the Sunday Mail,
Yeah.
motions,
Yeah.
debate, motions for debate from the branches.
I wonder how
Hello?
many. I wonder how many he's had so far.
I don't know. I have no idea, but isn't that great?
Yeah,
Isn't that great? It's
it
not
is.
just going to be another rally. This is going to be discussions of policy, debate. This is what it should be. And
Mm.
there was the promises last year, we will democratize the party. Well, guess what? We've got a board election. That's happening.
Yeah.
There are motions from branches at conference.
You have special
That is
general
happening.
meetings in every branch virtually to re-elect the
Yep.
officers. Yeah.
So it is actually happening. And one of the things that I think is absolutely key is as we go into the general election and the selection of candidates, I've been talking to some former Tory MPs who are thinking of coming and joining us. And I've said, look, chaps, one, the defection window is closing very fast. We don't really care. Fine if you want to join us, but really, it's no longer exciting to us. So there's that. And two, so you stood in constituency X, you were the MP for X, and you'd like it back. Please understand, you join us, you don't get it back.
Mm.
You join us, you take part, and the branch decides whether they want you. Nigel can't put you in that job.
It's
No matter how
got
much you like
to be like that, and I really hope it is going to be like that, and it's
I
got
really
to be
think
like
that's
that
okay.
because
And
we've made so
that's
many
my understanding.
promises to members, in our branches to say, that you will be able to have the person that you want to.
And that is one of the key things I think is absolutely vital going forward, and I believe it to be the case. One of the reasons the Conservative Party failed so badly is the centre decided to tell the branches who they could and couldn't have as their candidate,
Yeah.
and therefore the quality of candidates collapsed because the centre cannot, even our centre, cannot know everything, and it does not know everything.
And
It does not
the
know.
political bandwidth of the parties collapsed as well because you ended up with a bunch of candidates who
Yep.
were all of the same ilk, all social democrats.
Yeah, precisely. And so this is a mistake that we cannot afford to make, and we don't need to make.
No.
Because we're new, we can redefine ourselves. In many ways, the feeling of reform is a little bit like the feeling of the late 70s, early 80s Conservative Party. I'm not saying policies, I'm saying the feeling that you can change the world, you can do something. We're all in this together. We have different points of view, but we're pointing in the same direction. There was an excitement and a buzz. Then there was a lack of cynicism. One of the things I love about reform is that the people haven't had to elbow each other in the face for 20 years to get a seat.
Mm-hmm.
And so therefore there's this lack of cynicism. And that isn't naivety, which others may claim it to be. It is merely a lack of cynicism. It is a belief that we can achieve things. Whereas in the other parties, it goes, oh, well, I've always wanted a career in politics. 90% of our candidates didn't know they wanted a career in politics until about a week and a half ago. And I don't think they really want a career. They just want to do something for the country.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that lack of cynicism, that lack of belief. Now, maybe in 3-4 elections' time, the mood might be slightly different in the party. But right now, it's not driven by anything other than a desire to basically get our country back. And that shows at every public meeting I've gone to. The mood is determined. And even during the Rupert Lowe period, there was determination. It was a bit sullen. The joy went out of it for a while, but that joy seems to have come back. But yes, of course, I mean, there was disquiet.
I think people now understand that the party is bigger than any individual. And I even mean the individual when I say that. It's bigger. It's now bigger. So we have to support the party.
Perish the thought that something happened to the dear leader, but I don't think it would have more than a 5 to 10% hit on our polling rating at that point.
Correct.
And then we would grow again. If he really, though he's a talisman in many ways, and he's clearly a political genius, and so on and so forth, and great fun. It's far bigger now. He's lit the blue touch paper, and that fire is burning with or without him.
And you probably have to say at some point in the future we will move on from Nigel, but it's going to be a long time. But at some point we will.
Just the nature of reality.
Do you think for that to happen? Do you think we talked a bit about the composition of the board there? Do you think the composition of the board and the board itself has to evolve in terms of the participants?
I personally, I think that what I'm going to argue for if I get on the board is that when it's matters pertaining to Scotland, Wales, that the party director in Scotland, Wales is an ex officio member because of Scottish Welsh elections, and we're going to have 25, 30 AMs.
Yep.
They need representation. I think that the chairman of the local council association should be an ex officio member, possibly non-voting, but definitely whenever we're talking about matters pertaining councils, they need to be there. I would say possibly at the next board election that Scotland and Wales gets to vote on their own. So of the 3 votes, they get a 4th. For somebody in Scotland, somebody in Wales. I think that is necessary. I'm not somebody who believes that there should be an independent youth wing. I know many.
I was going to ask you about that because in the development of the Tory party, the Conservative youth young Conservatives was a big part of it, wasn't it?
It was, but that was when it was I was going to say knocking shop, a marriage market.
Many happy people have got married in that party.
Absolutely. It was a massive organisation, but that is one no longer needs. In the era of online dating, you don't need a Conservative youth or a Reform youth to meet a possible prospective partner of either sex, or neither. But the youth wing aspect, I was part of Conservative Graduates. I was also responsible for supporting what was Young Independents when I was working in UKIP. The problem with them is they focused young people's minds on internecine fighting, on squabbling and problems, and they only ever produce bad headlines. What Reform has done has basically said, if you're good enough, you're old enough. And no other party has got so many people under 25 in responsible jobs, positions. George Finch in Warwickshire. He's 19 now, but he was 18 when he became leader of the council. And he was elected by the 56-year-olds who were the other councillors. Yeah. He wasn't appointed by head office.
Yep.
You've got Maxwell down in Kent. You've got Joseph Bohm in Leicestershire. Yep. You've got Darren Grimes, who's still young up in Durham as deputy leaders. By not having a youth wing, we actually give youth their head. If you're interested, if you're good, we welcome you.
So if you have a youth wing. If you have a youth wing, you've got to work your way through the youth wing before you get into the main party. Yeah.
and it becomes, as I say, people get more interested in positions within the youth wing than actually doing the job for the party and
Mm.
doing the broader job. And so, whilst there is, and I think, a reasonable concern, and it's something I've thought about, but I haven't yet come to any conclusions. Um, Anybody who is 12 today could well be voting at the next election. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's nuts, but that is the law,
Yeah.
or going to be the law. And so, with votes for 16, that is just, and the only voices they hear are their teachers. So, therefore, I think we do need to have a concerted effort on the parts of our regional structure to engage with sixth forms, engage with and fifth forms now, and younger
Mm.
than six, not just sixth forms, but engage with um, schools at a very serious level. And basically, if they are, if these children are going to be voting in 4 years' time, and they are, then we need, and other parties, let's be
Mm.
fair, but they need to have much more engagement at a school level,
Yeah.
at secondary school, and there has to be an understanding that politics, because the children will be voting, they need to have a broad range of views. And in many schools, because of the makeup of the teaching body, that is quite difficult. When you've got the largest teacher trade union basically saying we're a bunch of racists and shouldn't be allowed into British politics, then it becomes slightly problematic when they are the ones that control the narrative and children who are going to vote in 4 years' time.
Can I take you back to the last election? Because I get the
Yeah.
impression that there was a I wasn't very happy with what happened. Basically, I know at the last election, because I was involved, we were told that we had to stand in every seat. So we were running around at the last minute trying to get people to stand and trying to get enough people to support them for to get on the ballot paper and so on.
Yeah.
And it was a mad scramble. And then, of course, when things happened a few weeks later, and people started to the media got involved, and you, I don't know if you recall, but you helped me very much at that time when they managed to find an old Twitter account I thought was dormant, and
Yeah.
but it was happening up. I mean, I remember speaking to you on the phone. You sounded as if you had like three phones and speaking to four different people at the same time. Now,
It probably was.
it wasn't fair to then level criticism at people for, you fought all the fires, but it wasn't fair to be critical then of people who had been put in that situation, because it was nobody's fault.
Well, one of the things that I've always had when I've been doing this role, over the years, at various general elections, and between elections, is I have a sort of triage, and that is what has been said malicious, or is it slightly eccentric? If it's eccentric, I'll live with it. If it's malicious, they can go.
Mm.
So that has always been my triage.
Yeah.
The problem is that this election, because it was a snap election,
Yeah.
and because the party had no money,
Mm.
um, for the first time in 20 years, I fought an election as the only press officer. At every election prior to that, I had at least two or three people in the office. And
Mm.
so therefore other people could pick up the phone too. This year, because it was done at such short notice, you can't train somebody at in the front line of the trenches.
Mm.
You have to train them first before they go into the front line. And because the war had started and we only had me, we did not have the capacity to train somebody up. So I was on my own. And given I was driving, I mean, one weekend I was, let's think, it was a Saturday in Sunderland, and on the Friday I was phoned by Nigel and basically said, organise an event in Newton Abbot in Devon. I want 8,000 there. When? For Monday. And I'm driving on my way to Sunderland on the Friday to try and sort out the event up there. And it's like, right, now at that time of year, you don't know how many villages are having village fetes and events and festivals. So getting a truck with a sound system was an interesting experience. We managed to borrow a car park at Trago Mills just outside Newton Abbot. That was good, and who runs Trago is great. But yeah, it was difficult. The vetting is now working, and of course, with all the councillors we've had elected, we're going to have track records
Mm.
of people who understand. So we are going to be in a far, far better place. And the press office has 4 people in it now.
Right.
So come election, we're going to be ready and prepared. So I have no worry.
Good. Good. That's good. I just felt it was a bit unfair. I think Nigel took it
It was
almost
unfair, but
personally.
but what could you do?
You know,
What could you?
he was being asked in every press conference or every
Yeah,
time the media approached him, what about this councillor who did this, that, and was horrible to his granny? You know,
it was impossible. And it's astonishing we did as well as we did, but the fact is that um, we are not in that situation. The vetting processes. I mean, the last 6 months we stopped having a vetting process to get candidates.
hmm,
And so, therefore, inevitably, some would slip through who were unsavoury, and it was problematic. I don't think that's going to happen next time, though no vetting system is perfect. There's always going to be some
yeah,
man or woman who said something dicey in the past, and that's just the nature of the beast. And you rely, vetting to a certain extent relies on the individual being vetted being honest. Yes, have you got this? Well, and I remember for this board post, it said, do you have a YouTube channel? Oh my God, yes, I did. I stopped using it in 2019, but I did have a YouTube channel for a short while. Things of this sort. So sometimes you forget you've got these things, and then
yeah.
it looks you're being dodgy or dishonest. But no, I think the system is going to be far, far better. And as I say, we already have 4 people in the press office. We've got one being employed in Wales, one being employed in Scotland. At the general election, I was the only one.
Yeah.
And I will admit, 1 or 2 times I almost broke. And I
Mm.
did make a couple of mistakes that were actually very, very damaging to the party. But I was hammered too thin. But that's the nature of the beast.
Yeah,
I
but
am going
I got the
to
impression
survive.
even I got the impression even Richard was sort of blamed a bit for not having the party in better shape to
Well,
be,
yeah, but I mean,
and I
it
think
was.
that was unfair.
I think it was unfair, and I was very happy and proud to have worked with Richard. He did a fantastic job, but at the same time, he also is self-aware enough to know that he wasn't. When Nigel said, "Let's do it," he wasn't going to get in the way because he knew that with Nigel at the lead, we would break through. Whereas with him at the lead, it would be very, very hard, and just the nature of the beast, just because
Mm.
of the cut through that the individuals have. But no, Richard's work at present on net zero and on the sort of macroeconomics is very, very good indeed.
Yeah, yeah.
And he's doing a fantastic job as a constituency MP, which he loves, and he's good at it. So I think we're all on a learning curve, but we are going to be in a far, far better place.
So with everything going so well just now, what threats do you think there are to the party over the next 3 years?
Complacency.
Yeah.
It gets very easy to just assume. And one of the things I'm delighted that Paul Nuttall's back is nobody at head office can remember anything other than success.
And Paul did the hard yards.
Nuttall comes in as deputy leader, and he knows how hard politics can be and how nasty it can get. He's been through it, and he's come out the other side.
Mm.
And so having that leavening of dark experience that Paul brings with him is, I think, a vital addition to the team.
Good.
But as I say, I'm going to have to go because I believe my laptop's just about to die.
Right, no problem. Look, thanks very much indeed for being on. As I said to you earlier, I don't think you'll have any issues in terms of this election, but we'll see.
As I say,
it's not
what
long.
What did I say about complacency?
But thank you very much for being on the podcast, and thank you also for agreeing to come up to Wirral next month, September. And I'll make sure we will put you up, and we'll make sure you have a.
And I will go to. Is it Holy Trinity?
Sorry.
I've got to go to Holy Trinity in Birkenhead.
No, you don't. No, you'll be staying in Thornton.
Yes, I know, but after that, I might just make my way to the Priory to have a look at it.
Ah, yeah, by all means.
All right,
great. Thanks again. Cheers now.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.